I did something to my stalker that left him breathless when he broke into my house and tried to have his way with me. Now his new favorite colors are orange and white. For the past 6 months, I have been relentlessly stalked and received threats against my life from someone I dated for a month. It started with phone calls, upwards of 45 to 50 a day, 50-page text messages, and him showing up outside my house at 5 a.m. When I wouldn't comply or feed the negative attention, I began to receive threats and claims that he would unalive me and get away with it by fleeing the country. He told me he shouldn't have to force me to be his friend or give him another chance. Every time I blocked his number, he would call me from different ones, pretend to be other people, or have his friends or even random strangers call me. Once, I freaked out an unsuspecting guy after informing him that the person who had told him to call me was actually stalking me, and I sent him proof. He ended up calling the police on the stalker, who then fled, of course. After about 2 months of this, I was evicted from my apartment building because my neighbors no longer felt safe due to his looming presence. I then applied for and was granted a temporary protection order. A few days later, I received a picture message of the note the sheriff civil had left on the door of my stalker's then residence, with a message taunting me that said, "What you are trying to do is stupid, and a restraining order is just a piece of paper." Ultimately, he just avoided the process server, and I was not being protected at all. On May 31st of this year, I relocated. This did not deter my stalker. He vowed to find where I moved to and threatened that if he couldn't find me, he would find my family. He then sent me a map of my mother's home, whom he had never met. I received a message from a woman claiming to be my former landlord, informing me that I owed a balance on my account and needed to pay to avoid late fees, with a link provided in the message. It turned out to be my stalker pretending to be a woman, and the link was a tool used to grab the user's IP address. Upon this discovery, I changed my phone number and began to systematically dismantle any trace of my online presence. This action only seemed to anger him. Before deleting the profiles outright, I attempted to block him from contacting me. Each time I blocked one, he simply created a new account and proceeded to contact me as if nothing had happened. He created 12 different Reddit accounts, 9 different Tumblrs, 10 different Instagrams, 3 Meetup accounts, 4 Facebooks, with which he changed his location to that of my hometown and proceeded to add nearly everyone from my high school graduating class, and even 3 Duolingo accounts in MySpace. Yes, even MySpace. I then received an empty package from him addressed to my former residence with the declaration, "Address correction requested, do not forward." I'm assuming he thought the post office would adhere to his request and return the package to him with my new corrected address on it. In mid-July, he created a profile using my photos and likeness to threaten my family. When I didn't respond, he posted semi-indecent pictures of me on the profile in an attempt to blackmail me into speaking with him. I did not, and I contacted Twitter to report the account and have it removed, which they eventually did. On August 21, 2014, I awoke around 8 p.m. to vigorous knocking and ringing of my doorbell. I looked out my window to see who it was, and I was horrified to see my stalker there. I called the police, and of course, he fled once again. This incident was followed by threatening emails from my stalker, demanding that I meet him somewhere. He stated that because he had found me, next time I would wake up to gunshots, and that if I didn't comply, he would first taser me and grate me in the ass using my blood as lube. This past Sunday night, I woke up at 6:45 a.m. to the ringing and knocking again. I proceeded to record him on video while I was on the phone with the police. He fled on foot once again, and I was hit with the same response from law enforcement: "Well, we can't really do much because technically, at this point, he's not doing anything wrong." Then why does he flee, I wonder? I obtained a temporary protection order again, but I have no solid address for this dangerous person. This is why I am in dire need of a private investigator to assist with finding his residence so he can be served. I hope you might be able to refer me to someone who can assist me. I've developed insomnia, depression, anxiety, and paranoia. I am completely isolated. I am 22 years old, and I have no social life anymore. I have 0 friends, and I've become a shell of my former self. I've faced eviction and lost a job because of this man's behavior, and I don't know how much longer I can survive. There's actually so much more that he has done to terrorize me, but for the sake of this already lengthy post, I try to condense it. I have proof in the form of recordings, event diaries, and copies of all his threats, interactions, and attempts to communicate. I would be more than willing to email them to show I'm not lying. I'm in Las Vegas if that helps at all. Update 1. I'm writing this while staring at the mess the police left for me, in a bit of a fog. After 6 months of stalking and threats against my life, my stalker finally snapped and decided to kick my door in and make good on his promise. Out of fear, I had begun sleeping with a chair propped against my front door to give myself a few extra precious seconds in case of an emergency. I shudder to think how differently things might have turned out had I not barricaded the door. I awoke around 1:15 a.m. to the sound of the door giving way after one kick, followed by the sounds of my stalker struggling to dislodge the chair while forcing his way inside. I jumped up and grabbed the gun I've learned to do everything with, even shower. I stood at the top of my stairs and fired twice, hitting him in the chest. I heard his scream and his disbelief that I had stood up for myself. 0 to 100 in milliseconds. I've never been so afraid in my life. I do not know if he is living, but I do know the police have him, and that's what helps the most. After months of him evading the police, I began to question whether he was unstoppable, untraceable, a Houdini who would unalive me and get away with it. As of now, I'm in a haze of guilt, surprise, relief, and disbelief. I shook as the canines dragged him out from his hiding place under a bush. I survived, where so many people do not. I did it, I survived. Update 2. Hi everyone, Scaling Stories here. This is an excerpt from a news article on October 3, 2014 after Op confronted her stalker. Las Vegas, NB, a woman shot her stalker after he kicked in her back door. She had been living in fear, showering with a gun and propping a chair against her door for just this sort of situation. Police say former boyfriend Douglas Eugene Jackson, 22, kicked in her door at around 1 a.m. last Friday. KVVU-TV reports that Jackson left the scene after being shot and tried to hide in some bushes. Police dogs quickly found the stalker. He was treated for his injuries at the University Medical Center of Southern Nevada. Jackson now faces charges of home invasion and aggravated stalking. Editor's note. Op stalker, Douglas Eugene Jackson, was sentenced to 15 years in prison in 2020.